Holistic radio, spiritual radio. This is achieveradio.com. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/achieveradio.
Here we go now. Go to the Carolyn. Here we go now. Here we go now. The wellness scene with Dr. D. Here we go now. Here we go now. Go to the Carolyn. The wellness scene with Dr. D.
Welcome, everybody, live with Dr. Carolyn Dean here on achieveradio.com. And thank you once again, our glorious friend Michael Brown in South Africa, for that great intro music. Here we go now. And now, the big now of all time, the only moment we have right now. And here we go again and again and again with Dr. Dean. We keep coming back to the same thing, ladies and gentlemen, magnesium and mineral deficiency and yeast overgrowth as the foundation for a lot of health challenges, and vindicated day in and day out, not only through the health reports that we see, the studies that are being done, nutritional studies, health studies, but also the testimonials of our customers who are supporting and underpinning what Dr. Dean has laid out, not only as a thesis, but also as a recommendation for how to bolster your health and how to charge yourself in such a way that you can actually reset your body, reset yourself at a cellular level, and experience yourself and your body in a completely different way. And you know what? The good news about it, ladies and gentlemen, is our cells are eternal. If you have any question about that, you can ask the immortal Henrietta Lack. And because of the eternalness of our cells, making cellular health the target, as Dr. Dean so wisely has done, gives you an edge, because it is the eternal, timeless state that our products are accessing and bringing forth aliveness, vitality, and well-being day in and day out as those cells constantly replenish themselves and are fortified with our formulas. Yes, and some days it may seem a little tedious, and some days it's a little slower than you may like. They're not drugs. They do not suppress symptoms. They are nutrients, and they, again, will revive you at a cellular level. But 100% of the time, without fail or exception, these nutrients are utilized to your benefit, and that's the exciting news that we have for you tonight. And, of course, who is the person who is the harbinger of all this great information, the one who's put it together, the one who stood the test of time? Oh, my gosh, ladies and gentlemen, and they have to tell you, raging against every fad, every dietary, thing that's happening, all this quote-unquote information that people seem to be encountering for the first time. It's incredible. Dr. Dean, she's been there. She's consistent. She's knowledgeable. She's wise. She's done it over and over again. She's done it with her own body, her own friends, her own family, this natural approach to health and wellness, and it's paid off in spades because, number one, first of all, she looks like she's about 19, ladies and gentlemen. And second of all, she's extraordinarily vibrant. And third of all, she's in a place of compassion and wisdom to share it with you. So we're so excited to have her with us again this evening. Another action-packed 2 hours of goodness. Welcome, Dr. Carolyn Dean.
Hey, let me just finish this last email.
You little multifaceted.
I know, I was hoping for a longer yay, and I'm typing now and making all kinds of mistakes. Okay, I'm here, everybody. I'm all excited to be here. This is going to be a great show. Is that what I should be saying? No. What I should be saying is that we are going to blow your socks off. I'm sounding like Bob here. He's always mixing metaphors. We're going to blow your socks off because every day, every week, every month, we learn new things. But these new things we learn really totally reinforce what we're doing. They absolutely do. Look at this blog question that came in. I'm just going to jump to it. It was out of Ginny's blog post about heart attack and cardiac arrest. And someone wrote, I've bought and am using ReMag and ReMite for about 9 days. I have Realign on the way. I have AFib, and I was taking magnesium taurine before I received the ReMag. With taurine, my heart palpitations got much better, it seemed. I stopped it and took ReMag, half a teaspoon 3 times a day, and I still had the palpitations. So now I take both. 2 125 milligram magnesium taurine and 3.5 teaspoons ReMag. Is this okay? And can I take more of either if I feel the need? Okay, 3.5 teaspoons of ReMag is a very good therapeutic dose, so I'm happy about that. Now, what's interesting and why I say we're just on top of everything is that our Realign has taurine in it. We know taurine is important, so we make sure you have it. It's a sulfur-based amino acid. It's doing a lot more than just supporting the heart. So I'm writing a new Realign book where I lay all this out, but it's not so much taking these things individually and reading about them. It's the synergistic effect. And when we put Realign, taurine beside our ReMag, that's something that really helps people. And we're constantly in customer service trying to make people realize ReMag is not a drug, and if it's not 100% magnesium deficiency that's causing your symptoms, then you should look at the Realign to detox, look at the ReMite, the other multiple minerals. Are you getting enough well-absorbed protein? Do you need the bliss factor in the RNA drops? Then this, I think it's a woman, goes on to ask, what do you think of carnitine? Okay, so what's carnitine? It is a broken down amino acid. Carnitine helps transport fatty acids into the mitochondria where energy is produced. And in the energy production, that's what I've referred to dozens of times, the Krebs cycle. 6 of the 8 steps require magnesium, so that's important. And listen to this. Your body can actually produce L-carnitine out of the amino acids lysine and methionine.
Wow,
Yeah,
how awesome
right
is
there.
that?
Yeah.
Bam.
Now, I'm sure bam! I'm sure I knew that in the back of my big brain, but to see it again today, because when people ask me, okay, yeah, you find it in red meat. Maybe it's because people aren't eating red meat. They say, oh, maybe I should take carnitine. But look at this. Lysine and methionine are precursors to producing the L-carnitine to help you put your fatty acids into your mitochondria. Where do we have lysine in our protocol? All over the RNA drops in the restructure because we have RNA powder in there. Methionine, where is that? I just told you it's in Realign. So the building blocks are what you want for these things rather than taking what is often a synthetic, highly processed supplement that they make in the hundreds of thousands of capsules and tablets. When we went to one of our manufacturing sites last year, Ginny and I were just blown away by how many supplements are being made. And as we're hearing from so many of our customers, they don't feel anything is working for them until they take our products, which are highly absorbed. She asked about curcumin. This is extracted from turmeric. It is high in magnesium. I think that's why it works. But the thing of it is, you cannot regulate the purity or the effectiveness of any of these herbs. You can farm them and bring them in and do certificate of analysis of the the lack of infection in them or the lack of heavy metals. But the certificate of analysis does not tell you whether or not this is pure and it's going to be effective. We know our products are. So that's why I've kind of turned away from herbal, quote, remedies. She asks about L-arginine. Now, what they're saying about arginine, it's an amino acid that changes into nitric oxide. I mean, there's a lot going on to make that happen, but that's how they define it. And nitric oxide is a powerful neurotransmitter that helps blood vessels relax and also improves circulation. And some evidence shows that arginine may help improve blood flow in the arteries of the heart. And on that little bit of evidence, they will promote arginine as a heart remedy. And it's not really so much that. But the underlying facts, the other side of the story is that high arginine levels, even in foods that are high in arginine, can trigger herpes virus reactivation, for which people take lysine. Where do you find lysine? In our RNA drops and our restructured RNA powder. So I don't know if the synergism of all this is just that my mind has known these facts over the years. I used to get cold sores. In fact, where am I putting that? Oh, yeah, in the Realign book, I'm talking about all these ways of detoxification and how the younger generations are talking about doing cold shock therapy, where they sit in a bowl of ice water to try to shock their body into behaving, or they do heat shock, which is very hot saunas, or they're doing hot yoga. Just the shock, this constant beating your body up. But when you shock your body, and I've done it myself, responding to challenges to go in and out of the hot tub and the cold bath in the local spa, the next day I got a cold sore on my lip. It reactivated what tends to stay in the nerve root ganglion. The viruses hang out there, and if you shock your body enough, and the stresses people have, you can shock yourself into your chickenpox virus coming to the surface as herpes. What's it called? What's the type of herpes from chickenpox? People on the chat will know.
Oh, simplex herpes? No.
No, it's that horrible shingles. It's shingles.
Oh, shingles, I was going to say. Shingles, yeah.
Yeah. Stress reactivates the stress of cold, the stress of hot. So what they're saying about arginine changing into nitric oxide and how wonderful it is, listen to this, folks. In the smooth muscles of blood vessels, calcium causes contraction and magnesium causes relaxation, which together control the blood pressure and flow in the artery. A final messenger for the dilation response is nitric oxide, which is dependent on magnesium. So even though people will say, well, you're just making it all about magnesium. Well, come to find out, it is all about magnesium. The 800 processes in the body require magnesium. There's nothing that comes close to magnesium in the types of things and the number of things it does in the body. So until you can prove to me that you are taking your 2, 3, and even 4 teaspoons of ReMag a day, then you have not done the basics for your body. You just haven't. I mean, you have proven to me when we'll get an email from someone who will say, well, I took, what was this most recent one? I took a teaspoon and a half of ReMag, and I'm no better. Oh, yes, this is very interesting, Ginny. And this is what will happen to some of our customers, and this is why we have such awesome customer service, so we can remind people of what's going on. someone wrote and they said, I want to let you know that because my health has continued to deteriorate, I saw a homeopath that did some genetic testing. I've been faithfully taking my magnesium and ReMag, 1.5 teaspoons of each. You know, newsflash, 1.5 teaspoons is just maintenance. I say 1 teaspoon is maintenance. That's only 300 milligrams. Your body needs 600 milligrams, so I should really change it to 2 teaspoons. But on the label, the FDA cannot let you say what your dosing is. It has to reflect the RDA. So that's, again, why we have customer service to help us out. 1.5 teaspoons is not enough to help a person from, quote, deteriorating. So she goes on, while getting more and more depressed as I read all the testimonials and hear the radio shows and how people are recovering from so many things, I'm happy for those people, but the only results I've seen is that I no longer have leg cramps when I stretch my legs at night, but my blood pressure is still high, the top number only, and my kidneys are still being damaged. Now, what happened with this woman, I'll say it now. I did phone her up because I was very interested in this genetic testing she had done and why, what transpired. And she told me on the phone that, yes, she does feel tense all the time. When you hold your body tense, you can do this if you have a blood pressure cuff at home. You can just stand up or lie down, whatever. Tense all the muscles in your body. Do your blood pressure and see the top pressure rises. I mean, it's just hemodynamics for that to happen. So the more this person is thinking, I'm not getting better, I'm deteriorating, I'm depressed, and I have all this past history of kidney problems, and also she has glaucoma, so her eyesight in one of her eyes is very bad. So she's got a lot of stress, and that will put your top blood pressure up. And it's hard to undo all that stress when you're not using therapeutic amounts of magnesium. She said, I very carefully watch my calcium intake. I'm glad to have the information on how damaging too much calcium can be. And she said, I lost most of my sight in my left eye due to glaucoma. And I've written blogs about eye health and glaucoma, how the eyes really do need vitamin C and magnesium. A couple of years ago, I was told my kidneys were failing, and I was getting severe cramps across my back, ribs, thighs, legs, and hands. When I took ReMag, the cramps cleared up pretty quickly. Now, lower back cramps. People don't equate that with magnesium deficiency, and oftentimes people can think it's due to kidneys, so that was interesting. So she says, my genetic tests kept showing up all through that I was low in magnesium, and I thought there had to have been a really bad error made, so I took those supplements with me yesterday to the homeopath. She says my body is not absorbing the magnesium because of the chloride molecule that carries the magnesium to the cells, and it was preventing the absorption of magnesium. Something about whatever processes that chloride in my body is broken or weak. She says I'm not totally clear on that, but it's quite clear my body isn't absorbing much of the magnesium at all. Okay, where are the errors here? First of all, ReMag magnesium is not attached to the chloride. It begins as magnesium chloride, but the 18 steps to process ReMag into what it has miraculously become make magnesium ion, a stable ion. There's nothing to do with chloride. And when I hear this type of doublespeak from a practitioner describing genetic testing about which there's no standardization, nobody knows anything about it, and she's just making it up as she goes along and scaring the daylights out of this woman and saying that that's why I'm not absorbing it or getting the result of it because she's not taking enough, rather than the homeopath, looking at the amount she's taking, oh, you're only taking a teaspoon and a half, what's that, 450 milligrams. That's sort of the RDA. Maybe you need more. And she says in her email and also on the phone, she says she's so unhappy that she had this testing done. She said it was 100 pages. In some parts it would say, you absolutely should not take this supplement. Another part, you have to take this supplement. She was told about having problems with MTHFR. I think she stopped the Real line because she was afraid of it now. I mean, it's bizarre. People doing this counseling on something of which they have no knowledge. She said, I'm really at my wit's end with the downward spiral of my health, and nothing seems to help. And she said, food, exercise, baths, organics. I found myself losing interest in even trying to do what my body needs because I'm just so plain tired and near exhausted all the time. I can't sleep well, never sleep through the night, never feel rested from my sleep. But I've kept taking my magnesium. So again, not taking enough magnesium to get the results from those symptoms. What have I always said? If you still have magnesium deficiency symptoms, you're not taking enough. I, at whatever, 107 to 10 pounds, needed 4 teaspoons. That's 1,200 milligrams for a year and a half. So she says, not sure what I'm going to do now, but wanted to let you know that others may be taking the magnesium and minerals properly and not feeling any better, and perhaps it's for the same reason that I haven't. I'm not absorbing it because of the chloride molecule. Now, the thing is, there are mineral ion channels. There can be blocks in mineral ion channels, but cystic fibrosis is the only disease that I've ever heard that has a block in the chloride channel. So, this is just so way out of the blue to be afraid now of chloride. Now, this is interesting what she says. At first I thought she was going to tell me no salt, to take no salt. Salt is sodium chloride. So if magnesium chloride is all of a sudden bad, why isn't sodium chloride? So again, didn't make any sense. And she says, she uses her Himalayan salt on foods, and I don't know if she's taking it in water when the way she writes this. So that's another thing she could do. And she's complimentary about my work, but she obviously thought that the magnesium chloride might be a problem for people with the. Yeah, it's a problem when you're misdiagnosed with a problem you don't have. So then she said in a second email, again before I called her, I did stop taking ReMag. I felt rather lost without it. However, because I knew that I had at least obtained some benefit from it, and I truly believe that we do not get enough from our foods. I did not, however, realize how my body might retaliate when I stopped the ReMag. I discontinued on January 24th. By the 29th, I had begun having slight muscle cramps. On the 31st, I went to work cleaning houses, and I could barely make it through the day because the cramping had gotten so intense throughout my back, ribs, lower and upper legs. So this is what the homeopath did to her. Made her afraid of taking ReMag. She stopped it, and then her symptoms started coming back. And these are symptoms that had been controlled with her 1.5 teaspoons. When I got home, I started taking the different magnesium, and by mid-morning the next day the cramps had lessened, but were still pretty severe. Today, February 2nd, they're gone, and so I know for a fact that magnesium cleared those up. So even if the chloride molecule was indeed raising my blood pressure, my body was still getting some benefit from the magnesium when I was taking it. So again, she's, I don't know if the homeopath had said to her, well, you're you're not absorbing the magnesium, or it's causing your blood pressure. I mean, who knows what was said, but she's developed the notion that the ReMag was raising her blood pressure, which it cannot do. Transiently, maybe some people, and we may see this, they'll slowly increase their ReMag, and then they'll feel kind of odd or feel something, or maybe get slight diarrhea and cut back. And then in that interim, it's almost like the body can go into withdrawal, and maybe the blood pressure, the top one, will react. But as I said earlier, her blood pressure, and we talked about that on the phone, is from tension. The top one is the tension on the blood vessels. Also, I had experienced a benefit I had not noted until it came back, and we hear this all the time from people. I used to have trouble with my right knee, but while on the ReMag, that cleared up. Well, it reappeared on January 31st. I'm still not sure what I think of the genetic testing, but I'm grateful to know that I've learned a lot about magnesium and its benefits, and thanks to all of you and the hard work and research that Dr. Dean has put into this, et cetera, et cetera. At this time, I doubt the only thing I can say about the genetic testing is I now see how important folate and B12 are, that they are in Realign in the methylated form, and how important vitamin D and A are. And this is another area where people with their genetic testing are being told how important vitamin D is and go on these high doses and cause themselves more magnesium deficiency. I continued to read your articles, et cetera, et cetera. So that, then on the phone, I asked, why did she think the ReMag and ReMite weren't working as well as she thought they should? And afterward, actually, I went into the fact that she didn't have enough. So she said, well, I get so fed up with things, I stopped eating my vegetables. And she says she always feels tired and loses interest in taking care of herself when she doesn't eat right. So I made her promise to start eating her vegetables and take care of herself, and just assured her that by slowly increasing her ReMag to therapeutic levels that she would feel better. I mean, there's no question that that's what happens to our people, is they will feel better when taking therapeutic amounts of ReMag. So, Ginny, what do you think of me just launching right into all that before you even get to breathe?
That was awesome. I'm absolutely thrilled with the entire exchange, because I think it points out a lot of things, including one thing, how much you care. I mean, to me, it's the amount of attention and time that we really devote to our customers, and you did say it, is really extraordinary, and I'm glad that we do, because they get what they need. And I think that's a beautiful exchange with you, Carolyn. That's very, very lovely and generous.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I mean, I'm not saying to the radio audience, and I'm going to be calling each and every one of you, but there's no question if I don't understand something, I want to know, and it's really no problem for me to call and really just get a sense of what's going on. And as Ginny will say, and all our wonderful customer service staff will say, people need to be heard and listened to, and they know they know they have something real. Maybe they can't believe it's so easy as just being a mineral deficiency, but when we just show we care and we're there to support and urge them along and tell them over and over again, this is not a drug. This is something that we're asking you to take to replace what you've been depleting over the decades, and try to get the structure and function of your body back on track. That's all we're doing.
Very good. Very good. That's all. Yes, that's all. That's all. That's all. Oh, wow. Perfect. Very good. Should we take a couple questions from our Chitty Chat line?
Let me just finish up with your blog, because it is pretty concise. Ginny does the blog, and you can find it at drcarolyndeanlive.com, and basically talking about using magnesium to support your heart. It's Heart Month. Ginny distinguishes cardiac arrest, which is pretty much sudden death, with a heart attack, which tends to come on slower, and the cardiac arrest, the way the Institute of Medicine is handling it, and allopathic medicine is trying to teach people CPR. And that's great, but it's way after the fact. We need to get people on magnesium so their heart, which has the highest amount of magnesium in the body, is saturated with magnesium to keep the magnesium muscle stable, to keep the electrical conductivity of the heart muscles stable and balanced, and you don't have a heart attack. So it's really important to learn CPR, cardiopulmonary resuscitation. I learned it in medical school. I really think I should probably take a refresher course. Watching CPR on TV shows probably isn't enough. So look at that email. See how many people are dying of these horrible sudden heart attacks. I won't try to be too negative about it, but it really behooves you to tell your friends and family that, you might be able to support your heart from having these attacks if you took some magnesium. So that I'll leave it at that. And yes, Ginny, let's go to chat.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Yes, I took CPR when I was, being a lifeguard, many years ago, but I haven't done it recently, and I thought the same thing. I thought, and I think in our area, the volunteer fire department teaches it all the time for like $10.
Mm-hmm.
So I just don't think it's that big of a deal to get a little refresher. So I might do that myself. Okay, let's see what everybody's asking about. Okay, our good friend Joan in Barrie, Ontario says, Dr. Dean, can you please talk a little bit about telomeres?
Well, the telomeres, I told people about the telomeres. Let me spell it out. Telomere. Is that how you spell it? Yeah. About
Tele,
telomeres in the Magnesium Miracle. And let's see if I can just quote myself. What is a telomere? A telomere? Yeah.
That's so awesome. Let me just quote myself. That's so perfect. All right, go ahead. Sorry.
A telomere is an essential part of chromosomes that affects how our cells age. Telomeres are the caps at the end of chromosomes that protect them from unraveling or getting attached to another chromosome. They're like the plastic cap at the end of a shoelace or the knot at the end of a string to keep it from unraveling. Here's another analogy. It's like the many extra stitches you put at the end of your sewing to prevent the thread from pulling free. Those extra stitches represent redundant sequences of nucleotides, the building blocks of DNA. They don't have a function other than protecting chromosomes. The current research on aging is firmly tied up with telomeres. As we baby boomers age, we're desperately trying to find ways to stay younger. Anti-aging research is a multi-billion-dollar industry. Blah, blah, blah. It should come as no surprise that magnesium is tightly wrapped up with telomeres. But the real shock is how few researchers are focusing on the miracle of magnesium and keeping telomeres from unraveling. Instead, they look for drugs. So I guess, what we could do is have, if people are interested in that section, don't have my book, we could cut and paste it for them. The Alturas, who did the forward to my book in their 2014 incredible research paper, they talk about the importance of telomeres and the damage caused by a host of environmental factors, all of which are treatable and preventable by therapeutic levels of magnesium. So to protect your telomeres, you need magnesium. It's quite obvious and basic when you just look at those facts. So I'll just leave it at that. Okay, Ginny?
Okay, that's absolutely excellent, wonderful, perfect. Okay, next question. Arlene says, I'm finding Realign gives me cold sores. I get rid of one, and 2 days later I get another. I'm only taking a third to a half of a capsule a day. It'd have to be a capsule, Arlene. Realign's a capsule. Why is this happening? I want to be able to take 2 a day. Am I detoxing, and why am I getting cold sores?
Yeah, that is, well, there's no arginine in it, that's for sure. There's no lysine to prevent cold sores. So the detox layers in the body are throwing off the virus. That is probably what's happening. I wonder about taking one whole capsule every few days, or maybe not diving in that deep in the water, but just stretching it out, a third every 3 days, so that you're getting some of the effect of the detox, but it's not really stirring up the virus. What I have done for my patients and clients in the past when I did consulting, I would give them a homeopathic herpes remedy. I wonder if I know where to find that. Herpes simplex. Yeah, this is a company where you might have to have a practitioner order you this. Deseret Biologicals, DESERET Biologicals. They have something called the Herpes Series Simplex. And each vial, there are several vials actually with all kinds of different potencies. And you take them in a series. It's what they call a drainage remedy to drain the toxins from the virus. I don't know that it kills the virus, but homeopathics act to help support the immune system so that the immune system itself will take over and try to get rid of the infection. So that's what I would do. If it's coming to the surface, use something. Homeopathic is the best way to treat viruses. There are virus combinations. Let me just go and look. I keep them around because here I am living in Maui when, oh gosh, was it 35, 40 years ago when Bob and I first visited Maui, I burnt my whole face. I burnt both of my lips so badly that I developed cold sores throughout my whole lip structure. So I keep herpes virus Nosode on hand. Let me see if I can read the company here. But yeah, herpes used to be a big deal, herpes genitalia, until AIDS came along, scarier things came along. You don't hear much about it. But herpes genitalia is just cold sore herpes in the genitalia. So I used to work a lot with these remedies. The company's called Professional Formulas, herpes virus number 6, Nosode. And when herpes comes to the surface, you treat it with a homeopathic herpes remedy and help support your immune system against the virus. So that's that for herpes.
Now, what do you think about, Louise is saying, I use tea tree oil for cold sores. It kills the virus instantly. Is that something, or are we talking about something different with the herpes?
Well, well, the cold sores and herpes simplex are the same thing. And yes, tea tree oil,
Okay.
it's pretty powerful. You can put it on top. It's a topical application to kind of beat it down at the surface. What I'm talking about with the homeopathics is at a deeper level to try to get at the nerve root ganglion.
Okay, very good.
Okay.
Excellent. Okay, now the next question. Brenda, I have amalgam fillings in my mouth. I have read to overcome thyroid, candida, autoimmune. These fillings need to be removed. What are your thoughts, please?
Yes, if you have more than, I don't know if it's 3 or 4 surfaces of mercury, then you can be building up mercury in your body when you're chewing, you're abrading the mercury filling and either causing little bits of it to flake off or a volatile amount of mercury to come off, which you either swallow or you inhale. And what you do about it is find a dentist who is an expert in removing mercury while keeping you safe. And that means a lot of evacuation of the air while you're doing it. That sounds bizarre, but it's, keeping, there's a name for what is done. A lot of air suction, I guess, is the best word I can come up with, to suck the air around your face and their face while it's being done, to drill the mercury out in chunks, not to just sand it off, which creates more vapor. There's a lot of criteria that you can find. IOAMT, let me look that up, find out what that means. I just know the acronym IOAMT is an organization that trains dentists. IAOMT, the International Academy of Oral Medicine and Toxicology. Right on their site they have safe amalgam removal, the IAOMT's recommendations. So find a dentist who will do it safely, do it slowly. Don't do it on the same day of the week every week. That sets up too much of a harmonic. Dr. Hal Huggins has written a lot about removing mercury amalgams. I had mine out very early on. So yes, it can be important. Taking the Realign is going to help with the mercury that you're ingesting right now from your amalgams. The glutathione and and ReMag as well are going to help with mercury detoxification.
Very good. Okay, excellent. Now, let's read this last one, and then we'll also just put out the word that if you'd like to talk to Dr. Dean tonight, 602-666-6027 is the phone number to call. Again, that's 602-666-6027, and you can talk with our very own Dr. Dean. Once you get into the phone studio, you've got to hit star 5. Star 5 on the keypad will raise your hand and let me know that you have a question or comment. Otherwise, your line remains muted. So again, star 5, go ahead and give us a call if you want to talk to Dr. Dean. And here's a question, too, from Elise. Dear Dr. Dean, I just read The Medical Medium, Thyroid Healing by Anthony William. And I read that thyroid problems are really just a symptom caused by Epstein-Barr virus, which also causes many other health problems. He said that the Epstein-Barr virus is also the same as herpes and shingles. And so apparently, I guess, if you treat that, you go, wow, okay. How have you heard of that? How would you get rid of this virus?
Have I heard of it? Of course. Epstein-Barr virus is in every one of us. Every one of us has been exposed to Epstein-Barr. It is in the herpes virus family, but it's more related to infectious mononucleosis than causing lesions on your lips or genitalia. So everybody has Epstein-Barr. We were testing for it way back in the day when chronic fatigue started and AIDS started. Everybody tested positive for it. So I've heard of this book for, about the year that it's been out, and it's ridiculous to say, oh, your thyroid is just Epstein-Barr virus. It's scary because there's no, quote, treatment to rid yourself of Epstein-Barr virus because we all have bits of it. What the, quote, treatment is to support your immune system so these viruses just take their place down the road and they're not forefront in your system. Thyroid, we talk about that in my ReMag book. It needs the 9 minerals to support the function of the thyroid. If you want to look at total biology, thyroid has to do with timing. You get hypothyroid because you want to slow down time. You get hyperthyroid because you want to speed up time. Yeast toxins block thyroid. Mercury blocks thyroid. There's all kinds of ways of looking at it. What we're saying is by supporting the immune system, you deal with Epstein-Barr. By taking your Realign, you deal with yeast toxins and mercury toxins. On and on and on. The ReMag book actually has a lot about thyroid. So there is no one cause, and it is quite unprofessional, although this medical medium is not a health professional. And people act like, oh, he's got the answer to thyroid. And maybe, some people will be helped, but it's really disinformation and misinformation.
That's just incredible. Just incredible. Yeah. We have so many testimonials about people who've, improved their thyroid performance. Their testing is much better. They've lost weight. They've had improvement in their heart and cardiac function as a result of their improved thyroid function. I think that's very irresponsible for him to say that. Okay, Michael Brown is typing in to Arlene and says the best immediate response I found to cold sores is boosting L-lysine. Maybe Carolyn can comment on this, why this works every single time. I have proved to myself that cold sores arise from an L-lysine deficiency. Since being on the complement formulas, this condition is a thing of the long-distant past.
Yeah, definitely. Even medicine uses lysine for herpes, and some people it's that deficiency. Some people it's taking foods with arginine that then will create a relative lysine deficiency. So people can try the lysine. The dosing is like 500 milligrams. 2 to 3 times a day. Some people say a little higher, but then I think you throw out the other amino acids, the high arginine foods that will lower your lysine, turkey, pork, chicken, pumpkin seeds, soybeans, peanuts, spirulina, and dairy. That's interesting. So if people are getting herpes and they're eating, quote, a lot of those foods, that might be interesting to try cutting back on those foods. So just Google those foods and see if they're on your list.
Very good. Excellent. All right. Excellent. Wonderful. Excellent. Okay. Excellent. All right. Live with Dr. Carolyn Dean here on AchieveRadio.com. We've got about 8.5 minutes to the top of the hour. No waving hands yet, Carolyn, although if you want to talk to Dr. Dean, you've got to hit *5 on your keypad, wave your hand. Otherwise, we will just continue to chitty-chat as we do. And also, we haven't even talked about your other blogs, some of which were really awesome.
Oh, what do we do? We have 8 minutes. Let me quickly do some mailbags. Someone is
Okay.
asking about heart murmurs. Could you please tell me exactly what a heart murmur is? Is that an electrical issue? No. Will taking magnesium get rid of a heart murmur? It can. The floppiness of the mitral valve will cause a heart murmur, and magnesium can help strengthen that heart valve. The calcification of the aortic valve, we wonder if the magnesium can help dissolve that calcium. So heart valve problems and septal defects, which are holes in the heart, they're usually found at birth. And even hypertrophic cardiomyopathy can cause the heart's sharp beat to appear more like a murmur when you listen at the heart. Examples of valve problems are narrow valves that limit blood flow, that's from calcification, or leaky valves that don't close properly, and that's the mitral valve. The next one, a doctor wrote us with his heart questions, and he says, I found out I was at risk for heart attack. He's responding to Ginny's blog when my cardiologist, who'd already provided me with a pacemaker and a beta blocker, wanted to help him overcome his 1,500 runs of ventricular tachycardia a month in spite of the pacemaker and beta blocker. He checked his file and found he'd had low serum magnesium levels over the past 5 years. He suggested I should take some magnesium. In 2 months, ventricular tachycardia fell from 1,500 a month to 0 on magnesium. A doctor friend ordered an RBC magnesium, and it showed my now normal serum magnesium wasn't really normal at all on magnesium RBC testing. But at least my arrhythmia were gone. And then he talks about having some renal failure because of diabetes, and I already emailed him back and I said, well, you know, diabetes, one of the signs, medical signs, is magnesium deficiency. And then he said, I discovered Dr. Dean and added ReMag. And then he came upon a problem where he started to get constipation and didn't know what was happening and ended up having to take milk of magnesia regularly. And I said, you really have to look at your water intake. And we've known that right from the beginning when people started taking minerals, magnesium, ReMag, and Remite. They started telling us, I feel thirsty all the time. What's going on? So you really have to do your water guidelines. This is all explained in the Magnesium Miracle book on Amazon or the free ebook, ReMag. It's a balance of your sea salt and your water intake, your ReMag and your Remite. And speaking of water, here's a very interesting comment that someone wrote in today. Dear Dr. Dean, I heard something from a physicist that I never heard before concerning water, which he has been studying for many years. He said we think of water as in 3 forms, solid, liquid, and vapor, but there are really 4 forms. The 4th form is a gel form between liquid water and ice. This is a form that the body uses to transport things we need into our cells. He calls this form EZ water, the letter E and the letter Z. He says that in order to facilitate this gel form for use in the body, we should put sea salt in our water. How about that for a backup for what you're always saying? Isn't that sweet? So I looked it up, and this 4th state of water, you'll appreciate this, Jenny. It says removing electrons from atoms to produce a plasma or a gel form of water is called ionization. So we are ionizing ourselves. Yeah, and that makes sense, you know, because the minerals in sea salt are ionized. And I don't know, I don't have much for the next 2 minutes. Is there a chat that you can pull up?
Okay, let's see. chitty chat. Let's see. Yep. Hi, Dr. Dean and Ginny. I'm taking 2 Realign daily. I have been at it for a while. Can I take 4 a day as informed of the info? And what time of the day is best? I usually take 1 in the morning and 1 at 6 p.m.
Well, I would say no to that. I really think we want to stay gentle with this. It does have the B vitamins. Here's how you tell. If your urine within the hour or so after taking one of your Realign, if your urine has turned bright, then you're excreting some of your Bs. So if you take more, you'll just excrete more. So look at that as a guideline. And the only time I tell people to take extra Realign is when they're out drinking alcohol. You take 1 Realign for every alcoholic beverage, and that helps detoxify the alcohol so you don't get drunk, you don't produce alcohol in your bloodstream or on your breathalyzer, and all the good things that come with having alcohol are still there, but you don't stumble around like a drunk person. Right, Ginny?
Correct. Absolutely no stumbling around like a drunk person. That is absolutely correct. Yep, it's very good. It's the hit of college campuses everywhere, people. Take it from the youngsters. Okay, excellent. Let's see, what else? I think we're all caught up here. Okay, very good. Now, next hour, let's just say, Carolyn, I want you to definitely go over those blogs, and especially the ones you wrote about male impotence and magnesium deficiency. And also, we've got to share our great testimonial that came in yesterday from our good friend about insulin resistance and ReMag. Very, very hot topics, these 2 things. So we're going to take a break, everybody. We'll be back with Hour 2 live with Dr. Carolyn Dean. Good information coming up. You don't want to miss it. We'll be right back.
We'll be back with Hour 2 of Live with Dr. Carolyn Dean, along with host Ginny Gunther, after this brief station break. You can also get updates and resources online by visiting drcarolyndean.com.
Psychic radio, holistic radio, spiritual radio. This is achieveradio.com. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/achieveradio.
achieveradio.com.
Here we go now. Go to the Carolyn. Here we go now. Here we go now. The wellness scene with Dr. D.
right, everybody. Hour 2, live with Dr. Carolyn. Here we go now. Absolutely. So excited to be back from our little breaky. I know Carolyn was drinking her ReMag and Remite water with her sea salt in it, and so was I. And I want to just let everybody know that also, oh, Carolyn, I haven't told you this. I'm just going to take one moment and brag on myself. I have been doing your keto plan for 3 weeks. Greg's been doing it too. And together we've lost about 15 pounds. And I am in my 2nd day of fasting.
Oh, wow. Good for you.
Yeah.
Excellent.
In honor of bringing you here. So I just wanted to let you know that the plan is really awesome. It works amazing. You really aren't hungry. We've had the most blasted fun converting all of the foods that we usually eat to keto, which is 70% fat, 25% protein, 5% carb, or you're trying to get about 20, 25 carbs a day. And I have to tell you that last night I made a keto pizza with the most hilarious keto crust I've ever even thought of in my whole life. Have you been making pizzas?
No, I don't make things.
You don't make
I don't
things.
make
You're
things.
hilarious. You cook all the time, don't you?
I don't cook recipes. If someone puts a recipe with it, do this. No, I have food in the house. I throw it together, and Bob thinks it's awesome. That's my cooking.
Oh, well, wait until you see this. You guys, this is hilarious. You take a chicken, Parmesan cheese, and an egg, and you mix it all together and roll it into a pizza crust. Incredible. And it's so good. And then you bake it for 8 minutes on 500. You crisp it right up, and then you slap your ingredients on it. And we pigged out on the best carb-free pizza ever. So listen, you guys, it's so much fun to do this. And but what I'm so excited about is this whole thing about lowering insulin resistance. I mean, it's just really something. And Sarah Courtney is typing in, Carolyn, she's going, keto diet, yay! It's the first thing that ever worked for me, and my body is so happy. And it is true. I mean, it's really easy to do. We're having a lot of fun with it. I love to cook and follow recipes. That's my, little fun thing I like to do. But this issue of lowering insulin resistance is really important, isn't it, Carolyn?
Yes, and let's go to that awesome, what I call scientific testimonial from one of our customers. And she said, first a bit of background. I've been taking ReMag, Remite, Realign for almost a year now as I gently detox heavy metals and heal from Candida and Hashimoto's. I do intermittent fasting, cook from scratch, avoid processed foods, packaged foods, and empty carbs. But I do still allow myself a daily sweet treat of some sort. I work at a stressful job and have no energy for regular physical activity. My sister is 16 years older than me. She's retired and had hip replacement surgery last year. She's healthy like me, but is also a vegetarian. She had to get down to a lean target weight prior to surgery and is very careful not to put on more weight, etc., because of her surgery. She does not allow herself so many sweet treats as I do. She walks every day to maintain her hip mobility. She takes a pile of good quality supplements to keep off pain pills and minimize her dose of Celebrex. She takes serapeptidase, pycnogenol, proteolytic enzymes, boswellia, curcumin, moringa, and more. She has also been taking magnesium malate for the last year at my insistence. So then our customer says, we both decided to try a new health assessment program. And she says it's pretty intense. They can analyze the DNA of everything in your gut down to the phylum, genus, and species and strain level. That's what we were, I mean, this sounds very sophisticated, but that's what we were doing in New York in the AIDS work I was doing. It's really quite amazing. They also send you a diabetes meter, a sweet drink, and supplies to perform your own glucose tolerance test. So they both did it, and she said, now, who should have performed better on this test? Me with my sweet tooth, stressful job, inactive lifestyle, or my sister who's fitter and more active, vegetarian, has minimal stress, eats minimal sugar, takes many supportive supplements? The conventional bet is on my sister, but I know Dr. Dean is betting on me because she caught the part at the beginning where I said I've been taking ReMag for almost a year now. My sister's numbers were, this is the glucose tolerance test. You take one before you drink the sweet drink, and then it's usually a half hour later and then an hour later. Her numbers were 102, 193, and 137. And our clients' customers' number were 82 instead of 105, 121 instead of 193, and 95 instead of 137. I couldn't believe it. The only thing in my favor was my younger age. It took me about 15 minutes to realize it wasn't just the magnesium, it was the ReMag, because my sister's taking magnesium as well. So there you go. No better proof than you need ReMag in your corner to prevent insulin resistance at your age, better than every other thing your doctor will tell you to do. Sincerely from a faithful member of Dr. Dean's fan club. That's so sweet. Isn't that awesome? Now that's science, folks. There's the science for you, because seriously, how are you going to have that type of research done in a formal setting? It's quite impossible. But this is why we talk about our structure and function testimonials when people are taking the complement formulas. And it's not just the ReMag. She's also on the ReMite and the Realign. So all those factors, and instead of being on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, probably 7, maybe about 10 supplements, she's just taking 3. It's wonderful. So we thank our customer for that. And will I go to the blogs now, Ginny?
Yes, please.
Right. Ginny seems to like this one. Magnesium deficiency keeps men down. And why did I write that? When it comes to erections, if you don't have enough magnesium, you just can't get it up. That's what researchers found when, quote, link established between erectile dysfunction and calcified coronary arteries. Of course, they didn't say that calcification is usually due to magnesium deficiency, but the same calcium blocking coronary arteries calcifies penile arteries and doesn't allow enough blood flow to create tumescence or thickening in the penis. The function of impotence drugs is simply to increase the blood flow to the penis. But since drugs are stupid, they can't be specific, and they increase the blood flow everywhere, including the brain. That's why men get a morning after migraine. It's just like they say on the popular TV show, Once Upon a Time, magic comes with a price. So the magic of drugs always comes with the price of side effects. And this kind of shocked me about this study. The mean age of the men in the study was only 50 and a half years. And the test was used to identify calcification in the coronary arteries that we've talked about, the calcification scan. So, I go on to say, how can we best describe the obliviousness of medicine to the overuse of drugs and the underuse of magnesium? Is it tunnel vision? Is it when all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail? Is it just keep doing dumb stuff that doesn't work? Is it just keep repeating the same mistakes? And then I put in an excerpt from the Magnesium Miracle, which was 2017, about testosterone and magnesium. And you can all go to to drcarolyndean.com for those blogs. So, yeah, I didn't really have much response to that. I don't think anyone wants to admit that things aren't working. The next
Right,
one,
I know.
In customer service, does anybody talk about that?
Well, no, but I just have to tell you what happened to a friend of mine, and that is that this happened to her husband. And they didn't know what was wrong. And, you know, they're making up all kinds of things about each other, and it's pressure. It's stressful. And then what ended up happening was he ended up being diagnosed with AFib. And one thing after another, and then he had to have a some stint or something put in, and viola, everything's working just fine again, right? So, you know, he's thinking he needs Viagra. Well, what would that have done? So, I mean, some things maybe not get a lot of great response on, you know, how people respond or whatever, but hopefully it causes people to really think, you know, there's more to our biology than meets the eye, and the body will do anything to protect the heart, including keeping you from getting an eruption, which makes perfect sense, right?
Right. Yes, very good point. And now that I think about it, I have seen testimonials where men will say things are working much better down under, and something they weren't even looking for. They found they were able to be more viable. So that's good. Next one, medications can cause heart failure. Just read a bit of this. As I note in the 2018 edition of the Magnesium Miracle, our ReMag is quite safe to take with any medication. Most magnesium products have a good safety record. However, there is one magnesium that can flush out medications, magnesium oxide, which has strong laxative effects. But magnesium itself is not safe from drugs and their side effects. All drugs tend to deplete magnesium because the liver has to detoxify them using magnesium as a necessary cofactor. And then I go through, again, something from my book, The Magnesium Miracle, 2015 review paper, Magnesium in Man, Implications for Health and Disease, describing the science behind drugs that deplete magnesium. It's well known. I mean, it is listed in the physician's desk reference. There's a huge list of magnesium robbers, and then there's the fluoride-based drugs that bind with magnesium and make it unavailable, and articles about all the different medications that people can be on as they get older. The article admits that people with heart failure take an average of 6.8 prescription medications a day. They say that the more drugs you take, the more likely you are to have a drug-drug interaction that can lead to heart failure. And the drugs they consider dangerous are non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, diabetes medications, blood pressure medications, antifungals, cancer medications, stimulants, antidepressants, and tumor necrosis factor inhibitors. And half of those drugs, you know, most people are on. So I'm not telling anyone to stop using their drugs, but if you're on drugs, you should really take ReMag to counter the magnesium deficiency they cause. So that was the next blog. I did have some people emailing and saying, yes, I don't need as many drugs when I'm taking the complement formulas, and it's a relief that I didn't have to stop my drugs in order to take your products. And we brag on that fact because there's no cross interaction. And as people get better, any doctor worth his or her salt is going to say, well, gosh, I don't think you need that drug. It's got side effects. Let's wean you off. And the next blog, Nutritional Management in Medicine. What do I say there? When I saw this title on Medscape, how much do you know about appropriate nutritional management? So it's written to doctors. I was excited to learn how allopathic medicine was advancing nutrition. There's still no medical nutrition specialty, but we all know how important good nutrition is for the structure and function of the body, and perhaps that information was filtering through the walls of medical academia. But no. It became quickly apparent that medicine is not interested in the structure and function of the body at all, but only interested in the sick body. Its mandate is to diagnose symptoms as a specific disease and treat those disease symptoms with drugs. The structure and function of the body are left to the dietary supplement industry, which is automatically censured if it strays into the realm of disease. The article turned out to be a series of tests and techniques to assess the status of very ill people on the verge of organ failure with severe compromised nutritional status. The focus of the article was to introduce doctors to complex, expensive tests and treatments for this segment of the population. There's nothing about helping keep people from getting these crippling diseases with proper nutrition. Would it be cynical or would it be accurate to say that there is more money to be made in treating sick people rather than keeping them well? So that, you like that article, Ginny?
Yes, I do. I like all your articles.
And then the next, last two, this is 2 weeks of blogs, and that's why Ginny wanted to get at them. Abuse in medicine, what did I say there? Let me quote myself. In the naturopathic community, practitioners report that more than half our female patients have been sexually abused or harassed. How do we know this? Because we ask. I'm shocked but not surprised by the outpouring of sexual harassment complaints against men in Hollywood, the media, and politics. However, I wonder when female and male patients will feel supported enough to report medical abuse. Our customer service staff hears about medical abuse, medical misdiagnosis, and mistreatment every day, and we hear it on my radio show as well. In my former practice, I'd listen to stories of incredible misdiagnosis and abuse. I remember one time, Ginny, a patient came in, and she, and I knew this patient probably for a couple of years, and she said that a doctor examined her and found a breast lump and said she had to go in for surgery. And this woman had pretty severe scoliosis. And so I examined her, and it was just a rib. He was saying that her poked out rib from her scoliosis was a breast tumor, and she probably had breast cancer and had to go and have surgery. And another instance, I'm sure I've said this before, but an acupuncturist sent a young girl, she was only 18, she had severe constipation, the acupuncturist said, and wondered if I could help. So I examined her, and I guess the acupuncturist never touched anything but her arms and legs for the acupuncture points, and her constipated abdomen kicked me. She was 8 months pregnant.
Oh, my God. No way. You've never told that story before. Oh, my God. No way. No
way. So
how did that happen?
I know. The girl didn't know. The acupuncturist didn't know. It was, and I never, when I told the acupuncturist or reported it to her, I never heard from her again. She's probably totally embarrassed. I mean, how ridiculous. Just unbelievable.
Wow. I have heard of young women not knowing they're pregnant and, like getting right up to the time, but I mean, that's incredible. That's incredible. Goodness gracious. Oh, my gosh.
So, yes, this article, it goes on. I mean, you can read it, Abuse in Medicine. I'm quoting some of the things I have in some of my books about scary with their patients and yelling at them. And actually, a blog I'm writing now, I think Bob found a website about 6,000 reports from people who took SSRIs and they're reporting the abuse, the side effects and the damage and the dangers. I'm writing a blog now about it's diet and drugs, not guns, that's affecting these kids or causing these horrible school shootings. And when you look at the side effects of drugs, someone told me that they saw Mark Hyman's series on the brain about all the drugs and what they're doing, but my story that wasn't reported apparently by Hyman is that when you take an antidepressant, it can be enough to remove the apathy that prevents you from acting on your suicidal or homicidal thoughts. So all of a sudden, it gives you enough energy to go out and shoot someone or shoot yourself. And this is a side effect that the drug companies know about. They've suppressed it. I'm sure I talk about it in Death by Modern Medicine. So that these drugs, they have these horrible side effects, and all these school shooters are on drugs of some sort.
Yeah. Several years ago, we had the opportunity to travel with a person who was a retired Secret Service agent, and her comment about the whole scene was that the number one threat to America's security was mental health issues. And, you know, when Reagan shut down all the centralized, mental health institutions and stuff in the 80s, they flooded the streets, and they've been drugged up ever since, and they are just walking time bombs. No doubt about it. No doubt about it.
And what are we doing about it? We're getting people on magnesium, because
That's
the
right.
next blog, I just talk about Heart Month. Let's make it Magnesium Month, and that's pretty much the whole story.
Has to be ReMag Month.
Oh,
magnesium doesn't work.
Right. Oh, you're right, Bob. I better go in there and change that. Yeah, I have in this article, and these blogs are on drcarolyndean.com. The number of magnesium products is overwhelming. VitaCost has 571 products listed. Amazon claims to have anywhere from 1,000 to 10,000, depending on the category. Magnesium sales have topped those of calcium in recent years. And one of my favorite authors, Dr. Malcolm Kendrick, has come out of the closet for magnesium. In his book, The Great Cholesterol Con, he doesn't mention magnesium once, even though it's a cholesterol regulator, but recently he's woken up. Yeah, this is a good article to read. I forgot that I had Kendrick in there and how he had written about magnesium and said, well, you know, most people are getting their magnesium. But then a new paper came out, Subclinical Magnesium Deficiency, a Principal Drive of Cardiovascular Disease and a Public Health Crisis. And it must be a 2017 publication. And Kendrick begins his atonement with the quote. He quotes somebody, "When the facts change, I change my mind." In a previous blog, he said that unless you're taking a stomach acid-lowering drug, you are extremely unlikely to be magnesium deficient. Now he's read the paper, he's repented and says, well, as it turns out, I was wrong. So that it's important to know that. I mean, this is the type of paper. I think the full paper is available online at no cost. You print that up and you start showing it to your doctor. I don't know what blog I'm saying the following in, but your doctor is forced to follow the standard practice of medicine. And presumably, if you can present your doctor with some of this research, they're not going to do it themselves, believe me, but if you can say, look, this article says you need it, this article, they're all listed in my Magnesium Miracle book. I tell people to print them up. And then the doctor can put them in his or her file. And if they come to the doctor and say, well, this isn't the standard practice of medicine, you say, well, the patient gave me this information and proved that they required it, or whatever they would say. But a doctor in the HMO setting cannot step over the line. They will lose their job.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they really can't step outside of the standard, the standard of care, Carolyn?
Practice.
Is that what it's called?
Standard practice of medicine. Standard practice of medicine. Yep, no, they are hamstrung. And what do we see all the time, or at least I see it in the Medscape article, emails I get every day? Doctors are burnt out. And now it's doctors are burnt out and depressed. And it's like 42% of doctors are burnt out and 34% are depressed. I mean, this is ridiculous. And when you look at the questionnaires or the questions they're asked and the survey numbers, they are never asked the question, are your patients not getting better? Or are you unhappy because your patients come back and they're worse? Or are you unhappy because there's so many side effects in your patients? They don't ask those questions, so they don't get those answers. So they will never know the cause of this depression and being burnt out. It's just such a rigged game. It's incredible.
Well, Carolyn, that's why they're eventually going to be Dr. Carolyn Dean Month.
Okay.
Well, one thing that I thought was so interesting about this article, Carolyn, is that if we just look at the whole progression of our situation, you came out and calling the magnesium deficiency a public health crisis last year in May.
Right.
Remember? And we had to take out that article, and we had to strike it from the record because the FDA did not approve of us making a subclinical magnesium deficiency a public health crisis, citing the 65 different conditions. And now this article's written, and I can't find the exact date, but I think it's later in 2015, 2017. So, here we go. It was accepted November of 2017. So once again, you are leading the way by pointing out that and recognizing that this epidemic and a public health crisis, and now here come these other highly credentialed, just as you are, doctors from, preventative cardiology and hospital medicine in Massachusetts and Kansas City, and they're basically saying the same exact thing. But what did they have? You've got a book that the whole purpose of calling it a public health crisis was to bring attention to the magnesium miracle and to the over 600 medical references that you had in the book. And these guys have medical references out the wazoo as well, and they're constructing the same exact thesis, same exact one.
Good point, Jenny. Thanks for pointing that out.
I have to keep track of these things.
Yeah, and isn't it crazy that the FDA won't let me talk about this, and they would not even. Do you recall what our lawyer says, Jenny? If we used that scientific article, then we would still be saying magnesium is a drug?
Correct. Absolutely. Absolutely. I absolutely do. And it's just because of the association with the products. But the thing of it is that, as, our very clear, wonderful Kelly pointed out to us earlier in the show, it's not just magnesium. It is ReMag. Nancy, I'm going to put the link to the research paper into the Nancy and is asking where's the article. I'm not clear where to see it. The article that Dr. Dean wrote is on her blog, Dr. Carolyn Dean, and it's her post from early February called Magnesium is Heart Month. And then, but on top of that, I'm going to actually post the link to the actual study. This Dr. James DiNicolentino is a very, very highly recognized cardiovascular researcher. So these guys who did this study are no joke. But I saw public health crisis, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. This is amazing. I mean, this is absolutely totally coming behind what Carolyn said in declaring that in April of 2015, 2017 is when you declared that, and you had all the specifics in the book to back it up.
Right. And it's Dr. James DiNicolantonio who writes the book The Salt Fix. And he's a PhD preventive cardiology researcher, and he says sea salt is good for you. So he's flying against the mainstream there. You should go, if you want to know the word isn't really politics, but you want to know the fight that's behind a lot of this, you go to these folks' books and you see the attacks that they're getting from mainstream people who they'll just shut their eyes. They won't even read the book. They'll just say, well, salt is dangerous. Everybody knows that. Or statins are good, and everybody knows that. So it is a big, huge fight. And we're all for it.
Yep, we're all for it, and we're all for taking our stand and for inspiring others to make those choices for themselves and to, fortunately, yes, there are high-quality products out there that are going to get people where they want to go. And, I just say to people, okay, you have two choices. You're going to go to the prom. You want to go in a Lamborghini or you want to go in a Volkswagen. Up to you, If you've decided to take a position for yourself and use natural remedies to heal your body in some way or to support your health, okay, good for you. Now get there the fastest way you can. And you want to take the Lamborghini, and that's what we've got.
And we love this fight because we're winning and are going to win. And a sidebar, Ginny, there's a documentary on the corruption at the Volkswagen company in Germany or someplace.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Scandal. Hey, that's right. Yeah, they did have a
So it's a good metaphor. You want to take the corrupt company or the Bob company? Oh, excuse me, Dr. Dean company.
The Bob company. The
Bob car.
All right, Bob. Oh, my Lord. All right. Very good.
No, but Carolyn, we have a problem. You are making magnesium popular, and that doesn't work.
Yeah, because it wasn't until a few years ago that I was able to create ReMag and find the chemist to do it, and that changed everything.
Yeah.
And when you look at Amazon at the reviews starting to pile up, and the previous edition of Magnesium Miracle at 800 reviews, and now in the new edition they're starting to build up. And the people that write the one-star reviews are saying, oh, she's just talking too much about her product. That shouldn't be. No, commerce has changed. That book was read by the Random House Ballantine lawyer, and they didn't find a problem with it because everything is cross-branded and referenced. They want there to be products in there because it means more people will buy the book. So everything has shifted. Everything has shifted. Everything you thought you knew is the opposite. It's quite fascinating, and we've got to be able to adapt, adopt, and survive. We've got to be able to shift ourselves with the current zeitgeist.
Yeah, everything's changing, Carolyn. You even have a semi-businessman as president.
Semi.
I don't know what he is, but he was a businessman, is his icon, and that's strange. That's new, have a businessman. So McLuhan predicted back in the 70s, bankers will go into politics. They've all functioned, they've all merged, all the media dynamics.
Right.
So the word makes the market. And so you just have to have Trump pro-ReMag or not, and that's what it hinges on. If the White House agreed with Dr. Dean, then it would be a fact. If they don't, it's never going to be a fact. So
Well,
it's all merged to the White House.
and we're not going to go there. Okay, Ginny, let's go on.
Yes, and for those
We
who
have
are
a
listening
call.
to this, for those who are listening to the show first time, that's Dr. Dean's husband, Bob, who pops in every once in a while and says witty and charming things like he just did. So thank you, Bob, for your contribution. Okay, let's see. Caller 602-666-6027. And the number to call, if you're on the line and you want to talk to Carolyn, you've got to hit *5 on your keypad. I just got a very cryptic message, Carolyn, from Edward in L.A. that says, using vitamin C, L-lysine, and magnesium for aortic stenosis, please discuss. Oh, that's sweet. Discuss, like they say, discuss.
Say it again, vitamin C, magnesium,
L-lysine
and what was the third one?
Magnesium.
I haven't heard of lysine for aortic stenosis, but certainly the vitamin C. Vitamin C is very important for arteries, but it should be the vitamin C complex, not just ascorbic acid. Should be ReMag for the magnesium, and magnesium ReMag will help dissolve calcium in soft tissues. But as I said, I don't know about using lysine. So that's the discussion.
Very good. Excellent. Okay. Excellent. And we hope, Edward, that you've heard clearly that you should be using ReMag, because magnesium may not get you all the way there. Okay. Excellent. So no callers tonight, Carolyn, wanting to chit-chat with you.
Great.
It's just so odd. Can you imagine? All right. What should we talk about now?
Our Healthy Heart webinar.
My gosh, was that ever a hit or what?
Yeah, tell me about it. What did people say? We haven't really talked about it.
Well, we just got so much great feedback. I mean, people were very, very impressed and got so much great information. And, we've definitely, you have said it more than once, and in every way, in a house, in a mouse, with a car, in a jar, in every way, how to say magnesium deficiency is the basis for heart rhythm issues and also getting into aortic stenosis, all these other kinds of different things. What are the real factors in cardiovascular disease? And we've just talked about it again earlier this evening, that here are these people making these compelling statements that it is a public health crisis of magnesium deficiency, and that is a big issue, and it's not going to be drugs and things that are going to, and surgery, drugs and devices that are going to resolve this issue. So people were just they were happy they would get their questions answered. They loved being able to listen to everything you had to say, and it was very, very well received. So thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, I think what we do is offer people a good explanation for why we're making the recommendations we do. And then what we tell people to take really is, they work for one thing, but it's only a few things. And that seems to make a big difference, because anybody else working with the structure and function of the heart, they'll just throw everything in. Like I said about L-arginine, well, there's some research that shows that it may help increase blood flow, and then boom, they put it in a formula and then do a whole bunch of advertising about it. And half the time you're just buying the words, because when people finally come to us and they've been on a dozen or more different supplements, we'll say, well, why are you coming to us if you're on all these things, and shouldn't they be working? And the answer is, of course, they're not. And it's partly because our things work, and also because we really do get to the yeast overgrowth problem pretty quickly. We tell people about it, pretty much from the beginning. Don't want to overwhelm people, but we do start with ReMag to help people get their energy and feel better, so they can manage the other things. Because the yeast overgrowth and being overweight. We've got the keto diet now. So we've got everything kind of wrapped up in a very usable protocol. And actually what we did at the end of the Healthy Heart webinar, and we can pass this on to our listeners as well if you haven't heard this, for the next week, for the rest of this week, we're doing a 30% off the Real line. And we don't do, this is one of the only discounts you'll ever get. We just don't. We don't do this. We don't do this. We just don't do discounts. That's not the way we run our company. You know, we don't have very high-priced supplements that then we can pretend we're discounting for you. We always keep the price down to a dull roar. But we have overstock on Realign. So this is where everybody should buy up as many bottles as you'd like, and then start realizing as you're taking it that these methylated Bs are going to help the nervous system and the heart and the detoxification system, and the methionine and taurine are going to do all the things we talked about earlier. So that's how we ended the Healthy Heart webinar. And Ginny can put that on chat, and it'll be in our notes how you can access the webinar anytime. Is it just on YouTube, Ginny?
Yeah, the YouTube 2012 RNA Radio is our YouTube thing, but I'll put it on here for people, as you said, Carolyn. And also another thing that people always get a big kick out of is I talked to this gal who called me the next day, and she said, Ginny, I never knew that avocado had CoQ10 in it, and I eat 3 avocados a day or something ridiculous. She loves avocado. She eats it with every meal. And she's like, when I heard that is going to just save me so much money because she's investing in a really expensive CoQ10 supplement. I'm sure it's very high quality. It's good, but it's not necessary. And this is the other thing is just the people are, in a desire to really feel good. They are, as you said, Carolyn, taking a lot. So CoQ10 was one of the things we could cross off the list. And that was really good for people to know that.
Right. And the amounts of these supplements that they say to take, if it looks like a high amount, and even if they say there have been some studies on it, they just isolate the one nutrient and give high amounts to try to force a result. What you're doing with your complement formulas is taking low amounts but of 100% absorbed nutrients that work synergistically. It's not just one thing that you have to force. And also when you take a supplement, you've got to figure out that it's processed, how well is it absorbed, and when you compare that to food, of course, you're going to absorb a lot better. So it is really like apples and oranges when you look at our supplements and foods compared to processed and synthetic supplements.
Our package is so compact. NASA emailed me that they're going to put it on their next Voyager flight to the ends of the universe to say this epitomizes human ingenuity and genius.
And there's our Bob.
Yes, always looking for ways to promote.
Thank you, Bob. Okay, well, I continue with a email that came after the Healthy Heart seminar. Someone said, just listen to the entire webinar, and it was excellent. I've studied and read your books and take nothing but ReMag and Remite and, of course, Cilantro, the blood thinner. I haven't been the best at following the sea salt regime, but feel compelled to try it again after hearing the webinar today. I remain AFib-free almost 2 years, and I still believe it is because of my own research, finding you, and refusing to take further poisons. I can't thank you enough. Knowledge is key, and I have spread the word. Just want you to know. So, yeah, that's someone that just flew in one day into our lives, started taking the products, and came back 2 years later and told us how she's doing. I think it's awesome. Someone here is talking about histamine. Some people say that they have overload of histamine, have a lot of problems, have to avoid histamine foods. So this woman says, I have histamine intolerance, and anxiety and nervousness comes along with that, plus many other terrible symptoms. I also just recognize that I have many symptoms of magnesium deficiency, and one of them is the worsening symptoms of histamine intolerance. I think I've found finally the connection and the answers to this nightmare I've been living with for the past 2 to 3 months. Thank you for your guidance along the way. My numb and cold hands and feet are almost gone. All is well. And I wrote back and said, yes, histamine intolerance can be from magnesium deficiency, and most people don't know that. I'm glad you figured it out. So, again, it's another thing we've probably heard in customer service 1,000 times where people say, I think I have histamine intolerance. I have to avoid so many foods. It's driving me crazy. And that's what all we say is, well, take your ReMag. You've already bought it. Just be patient, and we'll see what it does for you. And we're amazed when it helps the structure and function of the body so much that their symptoms are greatly diminished. Will I go on with the bag?
Couple questions. One question is, does Dr. Dean still recommend liposomal vitamin C? I hear her recommending a whole food vitamin C for purchase.
I recommend both. A lot of people say it's too much trouble to use the liposomal vitamin C. I actually stopped it for a while. I stopped it when I went away traveling the last time and then forgot to do it again. So I did start taking a little extra of the food-based vitamin C. Both are fine. Either one is fine, I think. I guess some of the feedback on the liposomal vitamin C is people didn't know how much vitamin C they were getting in milligrams. The vitamin C comes from rose hips, and there's no way of telling. So that was one of the drawbacks. So I recommend both. Some people love taking the liposomal vitamin C, so it's one or the other or both.
Very good. Excellent. Okay, and Michael had a quick question. Do you get testimonials from people who experience relief from mental psychological conditions like depression or paranoia when taking ReMag consistently?
Oh, yes, definitely. I think it starts with the anxiety diminishing at first. That if your body is tense, even on a physical level from magnesium deficiency, you feel tight and your nerves tingle because your muscles are tight around your nerves, and you start kind of self-reporting that, oh my gosh, what's going on? And I'm worried about, and it's like worry. The anxiety builds, and then you don't sleep well, and it's a lack of sleep that then seems to make people feel they're depressed and apathetic. If you go to a doctor and you say you're not sleeping and you're tired and you're apathetic, they will say you're depressed. And yes, Jenny would say the same, that we get reports all the time of people's mental status improving.
Hey, Karen, could you comment, or maybe you already did, on Trump's vegetable for food stamp people?
Yeah, I thought I told you, Bob. I heard Trump was cutting the food stamp program in half and making the half, I heard at first, farmer boxes of fruits and vegetables. I was extremely excited. I was going to blog it. And then I kept reading further, and it's not that at all. It's non-perishables in a box along with pasta and canned fruits and vegetables. So I'm not impressed.
Okay. I'm sure Trump wanted to do that, but some asshole from the FBI stopped it and put in the big farmer crap. Yes, this is a family show. Sorry. I'm from the underground.
Mute yourself, Bob.
I will mute myself. Wrong channel.
Yeah. Okay, more chat, Ginny?
Nope, we're caught up.
Okay, so here's someone, I call it an impatience email. I'm taking a ReMag and ReMite for about 3 weeks now. Remember that, 3 weeks. Mute yourself, Bob. I've I've been sleeping better and longer, although I wasn't having a lot of trouble sleeping before. I was hoping it would help my AFib. It started around 2007 on occasion. So she's talking about a 10-year problem that she wanted cured in 3 weeks. She says, I take Ritmolol for it, and about a year and a half ago I started blood pressure meds, and the blood pressure meds still don't keep my blood pressure down. ReMag doesn't appear to have helped at this point. So I emailed back already, and I said, it's still way too soon to tell, especially when ReMag has worked through the magnesium-depleting side effects of the meds as well. Then she explained how she had a horrible injury to her lumbar fourth and fifth that slipped out, and she's just been kind of bedridden and dependent on chiropractors ever since. And then she says she gets kind of a vibration through her nerves all the time. She had to retire early, homebound, and having problems with her muscles being sensitive to vibration and irregular heartbeat. And I said they're both magnesium deficiency symptoms. She said, of course, my cardiologist wants me to go on blood thinners, but I've refused so far, and he hasn't objected too strongly. I was recently in the hospital overnight because I couldn't breathe. I have no pulmonary problems, nor do I have COPD. My labs were okay except my potassium, which was a little low at 3.3. And I said, if potassium was low, then so was magnesium, but they don't test for magnesium. And then she said, she said, after saying she was on magnesium for 3 weeks and it hadn't helped, I can't take more than a quarter teaspoon, otherwise it causes loose stools. And I said, well, a quarter teaspoon is not therapeutic enough. We can send you the FAQ on taking psyllium and sipping it through the day or using ReMag lotion. She said with magnesium lactate, she could only take 2 caps a day without diarrhea. So she's got a real, the sensitive bowel, maybe it's yeast overgrowth. She said, sorry for the long explanation, but the details are helpful to us. And I said, I've seen and heard of this body vibration. It's a vibration caused by cells firing erratically because of magnesium deficiency. And then she finishes off, when the pain is too much to bear, I take tramadol. It's an opioid pain medication. It sometimes helps. And I ended up saying, once you get ReMag into your body, you will start to improve. Unfortunately, with any abnormal nerve symptoms, doctors put people on gabapentin, Neurontin, which can have many side effects, and on the opiates. So it just struck me that she's on this tramadol, on opioid pain medication. You've all heard of this opioid, disaster, crises. People are on these opioids and having all these horrible side effects. And how much of the need for opioids is really ReMag deficiency. Right, Ginny?
Yes, correct. Absolutely, 100%. Yeah, it is.
Yeah. And this Neurontin, how many times have we heard people say that they start to get numbness and tingling of all their extremities or twitching, and they're immediately put on Neurontin, and then they have to wean off Neurontin because it has so many side effects. It just is disheartening for the people that's happening to, but at least we're helping the people who come to us.
Correct. And we are helping, which is very good.
Yeah.
Yep,
Now, there are
definitely.
more, but I think we're coming up to the end of the second hour. I can't believe it. Bob doesn't believe it either. I can do one more? Well, people are saying they're still taking meds with their completement formulas. One man was on 8 tablets of prednisone. He's down to 3 tablets.
Oh, my gosh.
And that's fantastic.
Oh, my gosh.
Stay on as much or as little as you require. We don't mind if you're still on your meds as long as you're feeling better all around. So that was wonderful hearing that. And someone else, I'm now off my metformin for diabetes and my high blood pressure pills.
Wow,
I
that's
take
fantastic.
ReMag with my 1/8 of a teaspoon of sea salt and water.
Wow,
So that's someone
fantastic.
actually recovering from lung surgery on our formulas. Yeah.
Wow.
Awesome.
Fantastic.
Okay, folks, we actually have time to say goodbye without being into the bumper music. Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Ginny. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, audience.
Thank you, Ginny.
Thank you, Carolyn, and thanks all the listeners. Yay! And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes so it can just come directly to your phone if you wanted to. Okay. Talk to you guys later.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to Live with Dr. Carolyn Dean here on AchieveRadio.com. Till next time, so long, and thanks for all the fish.
AchieveRadio.com.
Well, it's marvelous, you see, as coming into your